Okay, we are recording this meeting. Welcome to a special meeting of the Economic Development Commission on October 12th. The agenda is as posted on the website. I'm just sort of doing it from memory. We don't have any minutes to approve. We will ask for if there's any new business, citizen comments, and then discuss the Wassel proposals. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? All right, hearing none. Sorry, I should say for Sally, we'll write up the minutes for this. There are 6 members of the EDC present. And I think you can see on the screen who those are, plus me. Okay, is there any citizen comments?
I mean, I have comments on this.
On the Wassel thing. Why don't we wait until the Wassel proposal and we'll make sure to call on you. If
Yeah,
there's
sure.
comments on any other items, Susie?
Yeah, I think you guys have done a really good job in making more food available in the park and the, those efforts that you've done. I think that they've worked really well.
Okay, can I just say that that's the chamber, not the EDC? I mean,
Okay, that's
Another
good job.
Yeah, it came out of the chamber.
thank you for Beth.
Helpful.
Beth and her colleagues, recruited and have done a very good job. Agreed. Well, and also I should say it's the chamber and the village trustees, I think both,
Because
right?
They gave us the
Well,
permit.
but they also recruited some people to come earlier on and so forth. So collectively, it was the two of them. The EDC claims
I
no.
thought I remember you saying something about you're looking for more ways to make. food
We
available.
did. We were looking, but we
Okay.
did nothing, which is appropriate in this case because there were other groups that were doing things. So
All right, well,
Doc, I didn't hear the question. What was the question?
it was praise for the EDC for something that we hadn't done, which is unusual because usually we get criticized for things that we haven't done. But in this case, we pointed out that the chamber and to some extent the village trustees were the ones who actually did something about it. So, okay, are there any other citizen comments? No. Okay, hearing none. We will then turn to the proposals. And the proposals are posted on the website, but I think, Beth, it would be good if you were, I don't know how, would you just like to summarize? There are 2 proposals.
There are 2 proposals. I'm going to do
This-
the infrastructure first,
Okay,
if I may.
that's great. The first proposal.
The
Right.
first proposal.
Can you all hear, by the way, online if Beth is sitting where she is?
Cannot hear very well.
All right. Beth, would you mind just coming? I'll put a chair over here and come closer. Oh.
Oops, I'm sorry. I stole your.
There you go.
Okay, the first request is for town infrastructure, not only for Wassel weekend, the 10th, 11th, and 12th, or the 11th specifically, but for holiday lights, because the chamber does not have funds to light the town, period. And I think the lighting of the town, the chamber will work with private businesses who can hang the lights, but we need to buy them from Woodstock Home and Hardware. And that's part of the request for $3,000. The second part is $2,000 to run 2 shuttle buses to the high school and back to hopefully alleviate some of the parking. We know we can't tie up River Street because that is the emergency route for the 11th. And so this would be specifically on Saturday, the 11th from 9:30 until 5 p.m. with Butler's bus. And 2, because it's such a distance, several years ago, we had one that went to the country club and that worked really well because it could come in the back way, but really because of the distance from downtown to the high school, we need 2.
All right, are there any comments or questions? And sorry, you're requesting $2,000 for the buses. Did you say that?
Yes, so the
Okay.
total request is $5,000.
Susie? I'm sorry, just
Oh,
looking to
you
see.
want to go first?
Sure.
So you said that it happened once before because I can imagine that people would rely on that shuttle bus as the last resort. They'll first look around for parking, clogging up the streets, and when they can't find anything, then do the.
Right,
And
there,
so it won't alleviate the challenge at all.
it does. Honestly, they were used because there are very limited, since we don't have Frost Mills anymore, there are very limited parking. You know, around the green, you can't park at all for the 11th because of the parade. So you have perpendicular parking, limited perpendicular parking on the green. Much of that's for handicapped people. The police 2 years ago had no parking on River Street, period. So they had it posted with things all the way down River Street.
So how will the people know that there's a shuttle bus available?
We have signs that we started one in Tashville and had signs all the way through the village to the high school.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
That answered my
okay, yeah, I answered mine too. Anyone online? Michelle Adams has her hands raised. Michelle? We can't see you or hear you, but if you want to unmute yourself, there you go.
I'm sorry, my apologies. I did not mean to raise my hand. Thank you, though.
All right, I got excited. Roger?
So Jonathan, I have kind of a broad response to this. Do you want me to talk about the bus right now? Or-
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is discuss this particular proposal, vote on it, and then discuss the other proposal, which I suspect is part of the broader thing. So if you,
Okay,
I'll leave it up to you when to,
well.
you can comment both times if you
So,
want.
so let me just say, in terms of lights, I'm all for it. Any decor, essentially.
No, don't
I
say that.
have significant issues with increasing the volume of this particular event and increasing the duration of this particular event. And shuttle buses to me are a way of turning it into something that I do not believe it is meant to be, which is a cute little town celebration, which visitors can come to or not come to. And frankly, the streets are clogged as it is without shuttle buses. And if you bring in more capacity for parking, the only limit we have on the number of people on the streets is the capacity of parking. So you're increasing the capacity of parking for reasons that I think are open to question. And I would suggest that you really need to take the temperature of the town and the village before you go forward with this.
Okay, all right, hold on one second. I just want to see if there's any comments online. No, okay, yeah, go ahead. Tell me your name, I'm sorry.
Allison.
Okay,
The only thing is, we have like tourist buses come through all the time. Is my only thing. I don't know. So how is that any different than saying people?
Can she speak up?
Can I just say, people have made their reservations since last March. Every place is full. And people continue to call and are filling up both sides of, this is an event that promotes Woodstock as a destination. It began 40 years ago and has grown, I think. But we've been having a shuttle bus for the last 4 years, except for last year.
I think, I'm sorry. I think the comment that wasn't heard was Allison saying that there are tour buses that come through. I'm not sure if your point
Yeah,
was,
it's like during fall foliage, like you see buses come through all the time and drop people off and
Right.
then they go park and then kind of like the same situation, isn't it? No?
well, this is a little different. This
A
is,
little different, but
yeah.
like,
they're both,
Capacity, it's the same amount of visitors that we're gonna have probably for Wassail than we would have for a day in fall foliage.
Yeah.
So it's just maybe alleviating the congestion of people parking, which I think is great, and having them park out there and making it not as congested. It's like you're saying, having the signage is great. We're gonna have the same amount of people here anyway, so.
I mean, we don't
it's
turn
just gonna
down,
Alleviate some pressure.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
The same amount of people are gonna come no matter what you do.
okay, Beth, hold on a second. Michael,
excuse me.
Mike, no, sorry, you can go next. Michael Mallett.
No, Deborah had a question too.
Oh, Deborah had a question. Sorry, Deborah, and then Michael Mallett.
I want to say something
Yeah.
real quick. I mean,
Oh.
like, not providing buses because it's going to expand the traffic problem is like saying, let's not open any more restaurants because more people are going to come here to eat. I mean, do we want people to come to Woodstock or not? I mean, that's the bottom line. If you're gonna shut them out, you're just gonna create more.
Well, hold on. All right, Deborah and then Michelle, and then Susie or Roger, if you have another comment. Deborah first, then Michelle.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue of what we want to do as far as promoting the town in a way is separate, because right now we're in a period of time where the only travel people can do is by car in America. So they're going to come, and we're going to be clogged like this last week, which was worse than anybody's ever seen. And that is an issue, and that is a problem. So trying to get the cars off the street, I think, is a good solution. That's not about promoting, that's just about handling the clog. And the question that I have is, have we tried something like with the churches? Like as a kid in Foxborough, everybody opened up their parking lot and they charged $5 a head, to park the cars in their parking lot, like at the U Church or whatever, so that the church actually makes some money and pulls people off the street and has a place to park. That may also get people off the street rather than clogging up the street. So I was just wondering if that's something that we've tried before as well.
I think the
I
only
have talked,
parking lot in town that would be available would be behind the UU Church.
That's what I was thinking.
No parking.
That's what I was thinking.
Beth, do you want to just
So I
respond to that
saw
question?
Linda today,
All right, hold on one
Linda
second.
Maxon,
Liza,
purple hair,
all right,
and she said, oh, Dan,
okay, sorry.
okay.
Do you want to respond to?
Well, I can say that I lived in a town in Yarmouth, Maine for 12 years. It had the Clam Festival. They brought 80,000 people to town. And every nonprofit, every church opened up their parking lot. So it has been something. The only space would be the UU Church. I have no problem asking them, you're going to alleviate 20 cars.
Well, the Otaquechee Health Center has 64 parking spaces. We could ask
Right.
them.
Or
last
the grade school.
The grade school, we send vendors there. So we use some of those for people who are helping with, because you have volunteers that are coming in also.
But it sounds like it's, in any event, I think the suggestion to try to maximize, and I don't know that this is just the chamber's responsibility. We should sort of think maybe the EDC can help, or maybe there are other volunteer groups, which are offline discussion.
Yeah.
But so I think, anyway, let me just keep going with the folks. I think Todd, Michelle first. Todd, were you raising your hand? Okay, so Michelle, then Todd, and then Susie or Roger, if you want to, or Susie, if you want to comment. Michelle, go ahead.
Thank you, Deborah. I love that idea. I think that's really very clever. And if we even look at that in pieces, just like that, 5 here, 10 there, 8 there, it all kind of matters. To the point, this weekend, we had over 3,000 people to Billings in 2 days. 3,000 people. And our parking lot, we use, of course, the overflow lot. We also use the lots closer to the admin building, which is across the street. We use some by the community gardens. Those are, and that's not just for Billings parking, of course, but that's for the national park. People had asked me all weekend, what's the best way to get into town from here? And I just say walk, because there's not going to be a closer spot. But that being said, there could be some signage around those spots that I just identified to really direct people to those places. And we had a person directing traffic to those parking spaces, and it is something that we can provide and will provide that weekend as well. But we will not see that many people at Billings, is my point. So we're able to certainly use those lots for capacity, to help capacity in the town. So we could talk about that as another option. But you might want a bus. That is kind of far. So that's something to consider. But, some people who are in for the walk, it might not be too bad. Thank you.
Todd, and then Susie.
Yeah, hi, everybody. A couple points, just because Michelle brought that up, it got me thinking. The Apples and Crafts Fair just had their event, and there's parking on site. Perhaps that field could be available for parking. I think quite a few vehicles fit there with all the tents up and whatnot. So maybe that's something the appropriate people can look into. I was further off that. I would like to just welcome anybody who hasn't been here in a while or haven't seen. I just want to read 2 things. I think this is important. It's a theme I'm going to keep bringing up. The purpose of the EDC is to increase the number of visitors who are most likely to develop connections to the area and contribute to the economy, 1, and 2, grow and diversify the resident population to enrich the community and the quality of life. Why is that important? Folks come in here and they don't exactly maybe know what we're supposed to be doing and what we're chartered with, just like perhaps they don't know exactly what the select board does in relation to the EDC, like approving funding or not. We only make the recommendation for the funds, as John always eloquently puts. I think that with that in mind, as a member of this body, I'm going to really go and remind folks like what we're here for and what our money's here for. This isn't the rules that I made up. This isn't the charter that I made up. It's in there already. So with that said, I love the chamber. I love Woodstock. I love what we do. I've been here 15 winters as a guest when my parents are at their house in Coeechee before I moved here myself. And I'd like to say that I can't support the Christmas lights money from the EDC. It comes every year. Someone else should pay for that. You know it's coming. You know you need them. You know they break. So I won't support it. They're awesome. We should raise the money, but I don't know how that fits into our purpose. It's not a new thing. It's not something that the chamber just came up with and said, hey, we got this idea. It's going to bring folks into town. It's going to beautify this or that. So I won't be supporting that. But I think that I want them, but I won't support it from the EDC. I think that the buses, I heard those comments. It's interesting. I agree with Michael 100%. I couldn't say it better and more quick. I wish I can talk as quick as you, Mike, because everyone would love that. But I think the buses are great. People are supposed to come to town. That fits our purpose. So I do support the buses or anything we can do to help pay staff and make parking safe and effective for people who are going to come and visit, regardless, because unless Woodstock wants to decide that we're not putting newspapers and articles and national publications as one of the most beautiful small towns in America, unless we want to be excluding outside people and being isolationists, we have to accept and prepare and best suit ourselves to welcome guests, give them a great experience while also maintaining a fabulous experience for the residents alike. That is my 2 cents. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Susie. And then I think Patrick may have wanted to say
I
something.
think that my comment might be better suited for, I mean, I just think that congestion in the streets, cars is only one of the issues. There's tremendous congestion on the sidewalks, in the stores, and it's a miserable experience for the residents who live here.
Yeah, and I think that could be relevant to both, but particularly relevant to, if you think, to the next one. Patrick, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I understand, things are crowded. And, one of the things we have to remember that we need to support the businesses, and the businesses need this time, and they need these people to come in to shop with them. And so we're talking a couple of days out of the Christmas season. I think we need to be cognizant of, the economic development commission, it's economic development. You don't have that unless people come in and buy. So I understand the concerns, but I look at this totally from a business standpoint as a business guy. The downtown businesses need those bodies to come in here and spend their money. And so, it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt for a couple of days. But December's a long month.
I just want to clarify the proposal that we're talking about, the lights. I don't think anyone is, leaving aside, I don't think anyone thinks the lights is going to increase or decrease the volume. But the bus we're talking about is only for one day. It's for Saturday, December 11th. I presume
Correct.
Because
Of
the volume is the peak on Saturday.
And we have to close off all of public parking from the entire east end, because that's where the parade. So we lose 75 parking spaces down there.
Yeah.
Right away.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry,
Last
I
comment.
misunderstood the proposal. If it's only for one day, then I withdraw my objection to it.
The bus is only
Yeah,
for
the
one day,
bus.
right?
No, the lights I already support.
Right. Okay. So Beth, sensing that comments have come, I'm sure if I ask, there'll be new comments, but I think we've heard various perspectives. So I'd like to call the question, but I'd like to ask Beth, you've heard a little bit about some people supporting a part of this proposal and not the other. Do you want to submit, you have a motion where they're combined and we can vote on that, or if you'd like to split them, or you want to vote on it combined?
We have to vote on them. I feel like we have to vote on them combined.
That's fine.
I totally understand that these are something that we do every year. It is not a budgeted item in the chamber budget, but I think that all of our chamber members who are B&Bs, who are lodging and hospitality, are paying a boatload of money to the town of Woodstock via the 1%. And this is a very minor percentage of that 1%.
Okay, so, so we have, can someone make a motion then to, approve this first proposal from the chamber? Is there anyone who'd like to make that motion?
John, I'll do it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Patrick.
With,
right.
with the understanding that I do appreciate Todd's comment and, you know, this, given this year is a very unusual year, the chamber's had a tough couple of years, you know, but there should be effort put into planning for this, you know, in future years.
Okay, thank you for that second and comment. All right, now I just want to remind people that because this is not in our normal funding cycle, we need a 2/3 vote of the EDC, which means that we need 6 members of the 9 to vote in favor of this. So
John, can you tell me what the motion is, John?
the motion is to grant the chamber $5,000 to be spent, but not up to, right? It's basically grant chamber $5,000, $3,000 of which would go towards the purchase of the lights around the green, and $2,000 would be to pay for 2 shuttle buses on December 11th between the hours of 9 and 5:30.
If the lights go around the whole town, John.
The whole
Not
town
around
side.
the green.
Yeah, all I care about
Those
is
are
the
the
green.
Woodstock Inn.
Oh, sorry. All right. I'm sorry. So it's the lights that go up on the trees by chippers, you know, the chippers puts them up and so forth. So those lights, for $3,000 and $2,000 for a shuttle bus from 9 to 5:30 on December 11th, which is the peak travel day. Okay.
Is it important to note that, correct me if I'm wrong, Beth, but the $3,000 is for the purchase of the lights and that the people installing it are donating their time. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Chippers donates, they both donate about $6,000 worth of man hours and bucket trucks.
Right.
I think that's important to realize.
All right. Thank you, Joe. All right. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, I need by a show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wait, that's me. I'm raising my hand. That's not. Okay. Any opposed? Okay, so we have to, it's not a problem. So we have to actually go around and ask, because if it's, anyway, the rules are that if it's a remote meeting, so we just have to go around and ask. So please say, I'll just ask each of you, please say yes or no. I know that you just have to do it technically. Todd?
No.
Joe?
Yes.
Dawn?
It's Larry, actually. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Michael?
Yes.
Deborah? Sorry, you're muted. I know, I'm being tech.
Yes.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, so the motion passes 6-1. Okay. All right, do you want to present, thank you. Do you want to present the second motion?
Yes. The second proposal is to take Wausau weekend, kick off a week of hopefully local shopping local in a couple ways. The first is to expand some of the events on December 10th, 11th, and 12th. We've already talked, we're going to have a gingerbread house contest, which the Woodstock Inn used to host. We're having the Adrian Tans is doing the scavenger hunt. We would like to, because Pentangle is not having the house tour this year, and part of the magic of the weekend is the sound of the horses going through town, quite honestly, with people on the, going from house to house to house, is to hire a business that will provide carriage rides. And the proposal is for Saturday and Sunday, the 11th and 12th, we would have carriage rides. Let me just
Says 9.
look, from 9:30 to 1 on Saturday, the 11th, and on the 12th from 11 to 3. And those carriage rides would be on the north side of the carriage would stop on the north side by the covered bridge of the green, go around Bond Street, back around Pleasant Elm, and back to around the green. We may take donations for that. We haven't decided that yet, but we're asking for that for Saturday and Sunday, the 11th and 12th, and also to kick off more of a Wassail week, the 18th and 19th.
Which is the following
The
Saturday and
following
Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday. In between that time, we're working with the downtown merchants to promote shopping locally, maybe with extended hours, ladies' nights, whatever each individual business wants to do to entice people to shop locally. So that's, the second thing is to have some people with period costumes in town, perhaps singing, caroling, talking about the history of the town, saying wassail to you, those, whatever we work with Pentangle, Deborah, and the actors, volunteers that we provide. Walking into shops, that kind of thing.
And those would be on what days?
The same.
Same as the horse
So,
ride.
The same as the horse rides.
Not exactly the same times, but those 4 days.
Right.
Okay.
And finally, we asked for some funds. We've withdrew the fire pit almost completely, except to have them on the green. And we may want to make some s'mores, I can't ever say that correctly, on the green on Saturdays, perhaps Sundays, for that time.
So were you talking about all this extra stuff following weekend as well? So it's not just one day, it's half of the month?
It's 4 days.
So it's the 11th, 10th, 11th, 12th.
12th.
What was the
No,
last
no, 11th and 12th.
The 10th, 11th, and 12th is Wassail weekend.
one?
So Billings Farm
And
kicks off, and there are some things that go on that Friday night. Saturday is the full day with the bonfire.
That's for the next weekend?
The next weekend is some carriage rides and some costumes.
Are we going to
No.
bring in lots and lots of people again? Because now you're talking about half the month that we have to, that's 2 weekends, right? So that means that's half of our weekends in December. So it's not just like a day here, like Patrick said, it's actually a significant amount of time that.
There's no buses, nothing. It is really to support the merchants and to enhance the visitors and shoppers' experience. Take a carriage ride.
Sorry, I just want to clarify what it is. Hold 1 second before we question, we'll discuss whether we should approve it or not. The costumes, it looks like in the proposal here is just it's not the same days as the horse ride. The horse ride is 11th and 12th, Saturday, Sunday, 18th and 19th, Saturday and Sunday. The costumes, it looks like, is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the first weekend, and that's it. That's what this says?
That is what it says.
Okay, is that correct, or
I'm not sure, Deborah. Help me here.
is it just for those 3 days for the first weekend, or is it two? Is it?
The places that we found with the costumes, we have them for the month, so we can use them for carolers. We can use them on another weekend. So originally it was for the 2 weekends, so it was 4 days.
Yes.
So the same day, weekend days as the horse.
Weekend days.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to clarify.
yeah.
And I would just ask, I don't know that you've done this calculation yet, but I think that given that you're reducing the number of fire pits from 5 to 1, and that means we don't have to buy any, but the labor and the cost of it and so forth,
I
and the
got
wood.
rid of that. I
Oh.
did get rid of all of them.
Well, maybe I don't have what's the total request then for,
$5,100.
okay, I'm using an old copy, sorry.
Yes,
And
I
that's,
did send a new one
yeah, I'm
to
sure,
everyone on the
um,
board.
Look on the website.
okay, all right, good, sorry, so
Give me one.
5,100, sorry. Susie, go ahead.
So, let me just tell you what it's like being a resident in the village when you don't have like a fence around your house and, you know, barriers to stop people from coming in. I walk out, my dog is screaming, I open the front door, there's a woman texting on my bench. I say, this is private property. She's like, I'm texting. I was walking my dog along River Street. I stopped these two women going into the garages. So they were looking in the window, they're walking around their backyard. I go up to them and I say, do you live here? And they said, no. And I said, I know you don't, because I know who lives there. And I said, you're trespassing. And they were like, oh, well, we just want to take pictures. You know, when you treat the place like Disneyland, people are gonna act like it's Disneyland. And we have no privacy. We have people picking flowers. We see people picking flowers from, you know, it's just like, yeah, come and do whatever you want. You know, who cares about what the residents want? And now you're talking about doing this for 2 weekends. You know what it's like? I mean, I've spoken to a lot of residents who are extremely upset by what happened this past weekend.
Yeah. Okay, Allison,
We all have to deal with the amount of people coming to town, but like.
just speak as loud as you can.
We all have to deal with the amount of people coming to this town, but like, this is how we make our living at the same time.
Mhm.
So.
It's not how everybody makes their living. Small percentage.
Not everyone, no.
All right, wait, one at a time, one at a time. Roger,
So, Jonathan, as you know, I've always been, I think, supportive of the EDC. And with all respect to the chamber, who've done a lot of work on this, and the events committee, who have also done a lot of work on this, I think this is a bridge too far in terms of both fulfilling the mission of the EDC and in making decisions about what kind of town this is going to be for the people who live here. The mission of the EDC is not to promote businesses, not to promote retail business. That's certainly part of economic development, but it's not the only part of economic development. And frankly, the first statement of your mission, which is that we will be promoting visitors who will develop a long-term relationship with this town. This is exactly the kind of event, this expanded, commodified wassail weekend that's no longer the cute little parade and a town event that's wonderful that people come and visit, but you're marketing something as essentially, oh, actors in period costumes. We're gonna do this, we're gonna have carriage rides, and we're gonna make it bigger. I think you're gonna find that you're gonna have a lot of people who live in this town who are not happy about this decision about what their lifestyle is going to be like. So I would think very seriously about this and get some more input on this. The idea of having carriage rides circulating around and actors in costumes wandering around. This is not colonial Williamsburg. This is not the French Quarter of New Orleans. Yes, tourism is an important part of the business here. I don't know if anybody's ever quantified to what extent it drives economic development here, but there are certainly many other things that drive economic development. In the last 2 years, many more people have moved here who are working remote. And one of the jobs of the EDC should be to be working with those people and deciding what it is that they want in this town. Yes, downtown retail is important. And promoting reasonable tourism is also important. But I also think that this is the kind of thing that challenges the brand that I would think Woodstock would be trying to, I mean, I don't know if it's ever been truly articulated what Woodstock's brand is as far as tourism, but there's a difference between people who are staying at the inn and wandering around the town and a mass gathering of essentially a Renaissance fair. So I would seriously question, I think, yes, the bus makes sense to me now that I'm sorry, I misread the proposal, but you're making decisions, or the EDC is potentially making decisions that are affecting the quality of life of people who live here. And I think it's very important that you consider that and also consider how that impacts a much broader conception of economic development than downtown merchants having traffic in their stores.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm just gonna turn to online. So I see Todd. Is there anyone else? Todd and then
Yes,
Tess?
Joe.
Well, Todd first and then Tess.
What about Joe?
Oh, and Joe. You, Joe?
Yes, I am.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand. Todd, Tess, and then Joe.
So I think this is great. Look, America's.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, you're muted. No, Todd, yeah.
I think this is great. I mean, debate is great. I appreciate the comments I'm hearing from the folks that are giving them, and I'm happy that they're here being a part of the conversation. I just want to go back to a couple quick things. One is we're volunteers here and we have rules to follow and guidelines. Let me reiterate the first purpose I think this is exactly filling the check boxes that are necessary for a yes vote from me. That is, again, increase the number of visitors who are most likely to develop connections to the area and contribute to the economy. That's what we're here for, one of the two purposes. So the best part is that we don't get to decide. So when folks in the gallery, I think a civic lesson is in order, with all due respect. We give a recommendation based on our purpose, and your elected officials that you voted for on town voting day, you go to that meeting and they can say no for all the reasons you're saying and others, or whatever it might be. And you should do that. I don't disagree 100% with what you're saying, but it doesn't matter. I am here to fulfill the purpose of the EDC. This, to me, in my opinion, checks those boxes. It will have my support. But again, it means nothing without financial approval of your elected officials at the select board. So I urge everyone to take these arguments, to think them through, maybe even have a stronger argument for your case at that meeting in 2 weeks' time, because that will be the ultimate decider. We decide nothing here. We only recommend. And I appreciate these points of view. Everyone can't be made to be happy, but lucky for us this year on this topic, I'm not on the select board, so I defer.
I think so. Todd, it was Tess and then Joe. Tess, you're muted. Tess, you there? All right, we'll come back to Tess. Joe?
Thank you. I think one of the things that's overlooked is that this Warsaw weekend isn't exclusively for tourism. I've lived in town for 30 years now, and I know I and my family look forward to it. We have occasionally relatives come up from Massachusetts and just to enjoy the weekend. So it isn't exclusively. I have a question, and then I want to further remark after the question. Beth, how much money is spent advertising outside of Woodstock for people to come to the Warsaw weekend?
Paid advertising?
Yeah. Newspapers, TV, whatever. Magazines.
Maybe $2,000.
$2,000.
What we
The point I'm trying to make is this: they're going to come anyway. The thousands of people, and it's been my experience, and I think everybody in town can witness it. The thousands of people that show up without having been prompted or calibrated by a news media bliss to come and see this wonderful thing that's happening in Woodstock, Vermont. They come anyway. So if they're gonna come anyway, you can do one or two things. You can deter them, or you can make the best of it. And you can welcome them with hospitality and cordiality and a certain amount of control in terms of parking and other physical amenities that's going to be required. But they're going to come, and if they're going to come, let's do our best job to make them feel welcome. Let Woodstock be hospitable, and perhaps, given that, they'll leave here with a positive image of Woodstock, Vermont, and maybe come back in an off season. Not that that's the goal. The goal is we have Wausau Weekend. We've had it for 40 years. Primarily, it was for locals and people in the surrounding area. Well, now we get people coming for hundreds of miles. What are you going to do? Put up a fence? No, that doesn't work. So do a good job of what we're going to be faced with, I think is what we should be talking about right now.
Okay, Susie next, and then I'd like to make a brief comment. Go ahead, Susie.
So, Joe, we're not talking about Wausau Weekend. We're talking about the following weekend that we are objecting to, is extending this, because I don't really see how you're going to have carolers on the sidewalk walking into stores without crowds gathering
That's a
around.
valid discussion.
Wait, hold on, Joe, hold on.
Congestion. I don't see how this not just not going to be another big mess like it was this past weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you are going to be contributing significantly to the congestion because you're going to have people standing around trying to take selfies with the Christmas carolers and climbing up on boxes and everything else so they can get a selfie with the carolers. And it's just going to be more congestion, more problems, more reasons to stay away from Woodstock.
Joe, did you want to quickly respond, and then Alicia and Allison?
Well, I think the point about expanding it to another weekend, that's valid. I mean, we can talk about that, discuss it, and agree or not agree, but the weekend itself is going to happen.
Yes, but no one's saying
So
otherwise.
if it's going to happen, I feel the town of Woodstock should put its best foot forward.
Okay,
That's my
thanks.
opinion. If you want to not extend it to the following week, okay, we can make that point. That's valid. In my opinion.
Alicia, Allison, and then Patrick.
So I certainly agree the town should put its best foot forward, but we've just been through foliage and it was a disaster. Trash was not picked up, street wasn't
Sorry, I
clean.
can't hear her.
They had plants. I think we need to get our act together before we add other stuff to it. That's one aspect. And I also agree with your point about the nature of the town. It is going with Disneyland route. Maybe we want to do that, but nobody's talked about it. So I don't think it should just happen.
Allison?
I didn't hear any of that.
Direct the caustic people to like a certain part of town to keep them off of the streets and clogging them. That problem, maybe they can jump free, maybe they can go, I don't know.
Town crier. Or
Yeah.
Patrick, I think you wanted to.
Everybody needs to keep one thing in mind, that this year, you don't judge anything by this year in terms of the volume of people. It's been an unusual year. Everyone was pent up for a year and a half. So they're out doing the only thing they can, which is driving a vacation. So we're not going to see this kind of traffic again. So don't judge what's going to happen in the future by this year. And, I think there's ways to manage some of the issues that you have in terms of traffic, or people on sidewalks and so forth. But the nature of the beast is, this weekend is known throughout the whole Northeast. It's written up in how many magazines, how many web blogs. And as Joe has said, they're going to come. So let's make it the best experience possible. I can see where there may be concern about a second weekend, but I think if you talk to the businesses who make this town lively, and that we complain when they leave, we do need to balance out giving them the opportunity, to generate revenue at a time when it's typically very slow. I'm one of those businesses. I can tell you the only traffic I get at my lodging property is Wausau weekend. The rest of the time, it's dead till Christmas, till that ski week. And I happen to be lucky because I'm closer to Killington, so I get people. But just keep in mind, November, December is a slow time for businesses here. So whatever business they can get, we need to help support them. So that's and I think that plays into the economic development of the town. So that's my view of it.
Deborah?
I gotta figure out how to lower my hand. There you go. Okay. I kind of, obviously I'm part of helping to create the idea of getting something that is expanded. And yet I have a lot of the same opinions as some of the people who are upset. We all are aware, we all went through last weekend. We know the issue of last weekend. And as a community, we're going to need to figure out what to do about those things that you're talking about. I get that. But they're not separate from each other. And I'm also of the mind that I don't want to see this turn into Disneyland. But I think we're making it something that's just meant to bring something a little bit more to the table, to the experience, because people are pent up and because there's so many people. And you're kind of making it larger than it is. These are not even the actor thing. They're not New York actors, they're locals. It's hiring locals for minimum wage, as well as some volunteers to do the work. It's working with the historic center so that it could involve the kids who are in high school, who are, students in theater who can have an experience and learn, and it's a historic thing. So, all of these are about expanding the community and community involvement to try to get people to have something to do, not to block. Nothing would be done to block. It's to be able to pull people into a number of different pockets on the green or on an area where it's not going to block people, so that people have a little bit more to do to expand so that it doesn't block. And it's the same thing with the parking. So I think we're just looking for creative solutions, but I think the larger issue about what does the town want to be is really key. And I think that's something that, as Todd said, that's what the select board does. And as a community, we can, figure out together. We're just here to try to help. And if it doesn't help, we don't have to do it.
I've been misunderstood. I don't care about the bus or the singers on Wausau weekends. Wausau weekend is a given. I have a big issue with extending all of that stuff for the following weekend. That's what my issue is. It's only the second weekend, because you have to consider what it's like to live. I pay over $8,000 a year in taxes to live here. I shop here all the time. I earn 100% of my money outside of Vermont, and I spend it all here in Woodstock, Vermont. I count for something too.
Right. Roger, I think the last comment, unless there's other EDC members. Go ahead.
I just want to say, again, this is some folks here are acting like there's no point in what you're doing because it just happens. People just show up. There's things in blogs and in magazines because they're PR, the chamber and other people are working on PR, which is great. Absolutely. The question is, what kind of event does Woodstock want to present to its residents and to people coming from outside? In my personal opinion, and anyone can disagree with me that wants to disagree, obviously, having actors wandering around and you are making a decision about what kind of town this is going to be, and it won't just happen once. And with respect to Patrick, we don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't know how many people are going to come next year. And what we're doing is we're presenting them with a carnival. And then when they come next year, they're going to expect a carnival. So that becomes Wassail weekend or Wassail month or whatever else. So that's, again, nobody is questioning the concept of Wassail weekend. It's a cute thing. I wish it could go back to what it probably was 20 years ago when you had the great parade of horses and little kids and stuff. But it's not going to go back to that, but we don't have to encourage the most commodified aspects of what should be a fun event for people visiting and people who live here. And again, I think the EDC has, to some extent, lost the focus on people who live here rather than, and I understand the last couple of years have been all about promoting business, and that makes sense. I absolutely agree. It's time to take a step back and take a deeper look at what sustainable economic development means for Woodstock.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna, Beth, okay, truly the last
Well,
comment on it.
I just wanted to say that the following weekend is not going to look like the 11th of December.
But you'll have carriage rides, blocking traffic and slowing down. whatever.
It'll slow down traffic. It's not going to block traffic. We're gonna work with the chief on that.
Okay, all right.
But I just want to say, we're not talking about buses, scavenger hunts, any of that. It's just an enhancement to call it Wassel Week and to get people to shop locally.
It's an enhancement.
Not everyone
If you-
is free.
And that's my concern is, I understand you believe it's an enhancement, and that's perfectly reasonable. I do not believe it's an enhancement.
Right. All right. Are there any-
One thing, I think everyone keep in mind, we're not looking to make this a carnival. You used the word carnival before. And I think that's, no, that's not what we're looking for. Just imagine if you had these actors on the green, in different places. They don't have to walk around town. We can control this to make it fun and Christmassy without being overly commercialized. I mean, nobody wants to over commercialize anything, but we can give people a little more of a Christmas spirit without turning it into a carnival. Carnival is just such an overblown word there, because no one's looking to make it a carnival. I think, we're just looking to add a little extra spice and flavor, without overdoing it.
All right, I'm gonna, if I can just make a last comment, and then I'll call for a vote on this. I'm gonna vote against this proposal because I've heard, and I'll explain why in a minute, but I'm then gonna propose an alternative motion to do the same activities, but just for Wassel Weekend at a slightly reduced budget, whatever the appropriate budget would be. And I'm in favor of that. And let me explain those two. That's just my personal vote. Let me explain those two things. I think this has been a very good discussion. And I do think that we need to have this discussion about whether to attract more people or not to town. And there's a sub discussion about what they should do when they come to town, to your point about whether something is a carnival or not. Or food trucks, I've heard food trucks on the green are considered a carnival. I've also heard younger people particularly laugh at that description and say, where have you been? Food trucks is where we eat. Yeah, whatever. I'm not trying to say who's in what camp, but there's a substantive fundamental debate about what we want the town to be. And I think that in the town planning process, the visioning process, that debate kind of came out a little bit, but not in a way that was sharp enough for us to be really making the kind of decisions that we're trying to make tonight. And this is a small one. The second point I would make is that to some extent, we're trying to experiment here with what works. And so I think part of the philosophy behind this was to try a few small things that we thought that some people thought were small. I thought were small. And I don't think that that we are beholden to do it forever. I do agree that there's more chance of doing it once you do it once, but I think that we have our destiny is within our control. Going back to the first point, I think we need to have a community discussion. I don't think we need to have it, and I don't think we can have it in time to change this decision, unless you want to have it at the select board meeting on Tuesday. But I do think that the EDC does need to host a discussion specifically about these kinds of issues. How many events do we want to have? Where do we need to improve the infrastructure and so forth? Two last points. One is that in that discussion, I think when we talk about economic development, we need to talk about not only what could happen in the future, but the impossibility, in my opinion, of going back to the past. we need to remember that the Woodstock economy in its static form is disappearing. It's not steady state. It's an unstable circumstance. Now, it may be that the best solution for the best number of people is to let it continue to erode as it has been for 40 years until it disappears. And that may outlast all of us, and that may be fine. But I think that there is no scenario in which we go, unless these are the criteria for making it. You mentioned 20 years ago, let's say 30 or 40 years ago, if we didn't have the internet, if we didn't have big box stores, if we didn't have global supply chains and so forth, we could have the Woodstock of 1960 or 1970. But unless those things happen, and so that makes, I'm not arguing one way or the other, I'm just saying that it makes that conversation about what to do quite difficult, because the default isn't to stay the same. The default, we're going to have to change. There's a very valid question as to what we change to. So I would like the EDC to sponsor that kind of discussion during 2022 to inform our future decision-making and funding, and I'll sort of support that. And the last thing I want to say is that there may be ways, and I would be willing to add a couple $100 to the budget in order to make this happen, to just, even on Wausau weekend, to just give out some information to people, to explain to them that this is a living community. Maybe we have cards printed up in every store and on the green, and just say a reminder, we know you love this place, we love it too. We know you want to take pictures, that's okay. These are the things that you shouldn't do. Don't pick someone's flowers. You know, if you're sitting on someone's step and they ask you to move away because it's their step, please move away. Pick up your trash, etc. You know, that sort of thing. And that may or may not, Alicia, you're shaking your head, that may or may not sorry.
That sounds awful.
Okay. That may not satisfy anyone or everyone, but
I think it sounds great.
but if there are ways, whether that's the way or some other way to mitigate the kind of damage that you and that a number of you were talking about, then perhaps we should consider that. We don't have to decide that tonight. We can consider, if there's some people who think that's not a great idea, we can consider ways to do that. We don't need a lead time for that.
John,
So anyway.
just John, I'm going to interrupt super quick because
I'm done.
What
I'm done.
someone got murdered in Killington a couple weeks ago. Do we tell people not to murder people? I mean, if there are people that come in town and they're going to steal people's flowers, like this is not what we're doing here. We're not the police. So I'm not making what you're saying, but that's not our job.
I'm not going to make the proposal tonight. If we decide to do it, I'll make it some other time. So anyway, Beth, I think I'd like to call the question on this
Well, I
on
just
this
had-
issue. All right, you're fine. You can
I'm
have the
sorry.
last. No, it's your proposal.
I
Go ahead.
just want to say that perhaps we also need to work with the select board and the town manager to make sure the trash gets picked up every 2 days.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, that's not something that has happened. So if you're gonna have 5,000 people in town, you have to make sure through the other infrastructure, which is our select board, that they do that.
They won't come on Saturday. So that's something that they tried this year.
Yeah.
And
So
Monday,
anyway.
Wednesday, Friday, they won't come on Saturday.
Let's wrap it up.
Well, okay.
Sorry, thank
Yeah,
you.
no,
I
no,
just
no.
wanted to
No, no,
say
but
that we need to work on that.
But that's a problem. Yeah, okay. So that's for the select board meeting, I think.
Yes.
All right. Does someone want to make the motion as proposed, which is for the two? Beth, let me just ask, will you consider amending your motion to have it only be one weekend, or
Yeah.
would you?
Yes,
You would consider that?
yes.
Okay. So the motion, is there someone who's willing to make?
I propose the motion to have Beth's funding for the one weekend.
Okay.
I propose that motion.
All right, is
I'll
there a
second
second?
it.
Patrick is second. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Oh, so Mika's here. Sorry, wait, Mika is just coming on. Oh, God. Mika, well, we did already vote. That's true.
Oh, you voted. That's funny. I'm sorry. I know I missed all the comments, but I heard all the discussion offline. I knew how I was voting, and I was in the car, obviously. But you voted, so there it is.
All right, fine. You're voting, if you had voted, you would vote in favor?
Yes.
Okay, fine, otherwise. Okay, so the motion we don't have to take a roll call vote, the motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other, actually, there's no further citizen comments. We're done. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Thank you.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I wanted.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. Have
Thank
a
you.
great night. Thank you.
Bye all.
Thank you.
No, and, you know, with